Good morning, Mike. My name is Anh-Thu, and I'm a pilot. I'm a flight instructor, and I'm also an aerospace engineer. I was actually born in Vietnam, and I came to the US when I was 12 years old. I was born in a very remote village in south central Vietnam called Tuy Hoa, and we had no electricity, and basically the children there had no knowledge of aviation or no dreams of aviation, because it was such a remote idea. But I remember when I was a kid, I used to watch airplanes fly by, and that sort of just kind of caught my eye, and I started thinking about it and dreaming about it. But it was just like a dream, like how can you, as a child and living in poverty, with no electricity, envision or even imagine that you could be a pilot. It's such a unrealistic reality. So when I came here to the US when I was 12, then I started learning more about the possibility of being a pilot, and but obviously, it's such a remote idea that my parents were not even supportive. My dad, even though he's a big dreamer, he's always encouraged me to dream big. But I think this idea of becoming a pilot was too big for him. So he was so hesitant, and in fact, he just rejected my idea immediately when I said, "Oh, I wanted to join the Air Force when I was 16." He's like, "No, you're a girl. You're not going to do that." So that just kind of shut down my ambition of becoming a pilot right there. But within me though, it never went away, because it's like once you have that passion in you, you just can never let it go, because my passion was so profound within me that all the rejections, all the negative energy, and all the things that people discouraged me not to do. Although I didn't do them because I was underage and I was a minor and I didn't have the ability legally to do anything. But once I turned 18, I realized, oh, I can go to a flight school without my father and take a flying lesson, you know what I mean? And nobody's gonna stop me. So actually, I didn't tell my parents that I was training. Because I knew that was not an idea or something they would support. Obviously, they weren't going to give me any money. Well, my family didn't have any money anyway to give, So I majored in math. I was a math tutor. So I worked for like 20 hours a week, just to train for an hour. So you can just imagine how long that takes, for a little kid, no guidance, no support, just trying to take flight lessons. And that took me obviously like 10 years, for me to get, almost 10 years for me to get my private pilot. So I didn't really, you can just imagine like, where would you get the money from, So I got my bachelor's degree, and then I got my master's degree in aerospace engineering, and then I went to work for an aerospace company. And so then as I was working as an aerospace engineer, I started earning enough money, right? So I got my job in April, and by July, I got my private license. Wow, right? So that's like 3 months, because I had so many hours, but it was so like sporadic, over like so many years that there was no way, for me to get it done. So yeah, finally then once I got my private, then I was like, okay, now I know how things work, now I know how to get a license, So then I just kind of went on from there and got all my other licenses and ratings. Obviously with no support, emotional support or financial support from my family, I was on my own, right? So at this point, I think I was about 18, 19-ish, and I'm like, okay, so now I can legally make decisions by myself, right? So then I went to a flight school, and when I walked in, obviously people were not welcoming at all, because here I have this Asian girl with this long hair, who doesn't look like a pilot, a typical pilot that people are used to, So they're like, oh, you want to take flight lessons? I'm like, yes, I do, And I try to explain to them, and they're like, oh, that this is very expensive, because, they could tell from the way I looked that I had no money, okay? And I had to really even try to convince them to take me as a student, And that was a challenge in itself. And so once I got past that barrier, right, now it's the financial aspect of it and the training itself. So like I said, I had no money. no sort of support. So I worked 20 hours a week as a math tutor to pay for 1 hour of flight lessons, you know. But I was in college, so you can imagine in college, you know, there's so many exams and so many activities going on in your life that you really don't have time to pick up extracurricular activities outside of school, you know. So here I was trying to get a lesson here, a lesson there, you know, between exams and such. So, you know, I would get like, I would pay for one lesson this month, and the next month, I'd save up enough money to pay for another lesson. So, you know, it was very, very difficult process. So in terms of training, you know, I'm a woman. Obviously I am, and it's very, very difficult for me because I was never mechanically inclined, you know. So although the passion in me was so profound, my physical self, my physical body was not able to endure the motion sickness. Okay, so on my first flight, I just got really, really sick, and I got really, really scared. I was in this really tiny airplane with my instructor, and I felt like I was gonna pass out, vomit, and the airplane was gonna fall from the sky. That's how I really felt, you know? I was like, this thing is so tiny, and obviously I didn't understand, you know, because when you first start training, you don't know the process, you don't know the aerodynamics of the airplane, you don't know how to control it, you don't know how it works, so you are very, very scared. I was so terrified. I'm like, I can't imagine, I really want to be a pilot, but I don't know about this airplane, you know, I don't know how safe it is, it looks so small, and any turbulence that we encounter would shift the airplane, you know. So I just got so terrified. So on my first flight, I actually told my instructor, you know, I need to go down, you know, I think we gotta land because I can't take it. But it was so embarrassing for me because there was so much passion in me, yet I was not able to physically, you know, enjoy the experience. So it took me, I think, maybe a few months, you know, like 10 lessons, which is a really long time for someone because usually people solo after 10 lessons. But for me, it was such a challenge to overcome that initial, you know, that initial obstacle in terms of training. So then once I got past through all that, then I could solo, you know. And I think once I soloed, I was able to build confidence, even though very, you know, low level of confidence, but I had some confidence that I could actually fly the airplane and land it safely. So, you know, after I got my private license, at this point I was working, like I said, for an aerospace company, and I was very excited when I got a job as an aerospace engineer, you know, because, you know, I wanted to be a pilot, but being an engineer was also cool and very exciting for me. But after sitting at my desk for about a year, I decided that I wanted to be in the sky, you know. I wanted the cockpit to be my office, you know, and I got really, really bored at my job. So I decided that I'm really going to quit my job and get the rest of my, you know, get the rest of my ratings. So now I have, I'm a flight instructor, so I'm a CFI. CFI double I, which means I can teach instrument students. I'm an MEI, and I'm also I also have my ATP. A lot of people know that your private is going to cost you about, I want to say $10,000-$12,000, and per FAA regulations you need about 40 hours of training and instructors fees. You know, so that's going to cost you about $12,000. Your instrument is your next rating, right? So for your instrument, you need to have 50 PIC. That means pilot in command, cross-country time, which means you have to, after you get your private license, you have to do 50 hours PIC to a different airport, which is 50 nautical miles from your origin airport. So each flight has to be 50 nautical miles for it to count towards your cross-country hours, something like that. So once you get that, then you need another 40 hours, you know, for training with an instructor. Not all of it has to be with an instructor, but you need about 40 hours of instrument training. Then you can get your instrument rating. And this is gonna cost you approximately another $10,000-$12,000. From instrument to commercial, you know, when you get your instrument, you should be around 150 hours, you know, or 200 hours, something like that, you know. So then for your commercial, the regulation requires you to have about 250 hours. Yeah, so once you get 250 hours, you know, once you get about 230 hours, you know, 230 hours, you can start training towards your commercial. So when you are ready for your check ride, you should be at 250 hours. And you know, how long does it take? How long does it take depends on you as a student, right? So if you want to get it done in a month or 2 months, obviously you need to fly almost every day, you know, and it's not just the flying, it's the bookwork, you know. You have to be a bit of a bookworm for a while, you know, to study and to pass all your written exams, you know, but once you get through all that, you can definitely get it done. I say your instrument, you can do it in 3 months. So, you know, to be a CFI has been an honor and a privilege for me, actually. One, because I get to fly without having to pay, right? Obviously, and I'm getting paid. Two, I have the opportunity to spread my passion, you know, to share my passion with someone else. So I think that has been awesome. Another thing is the learning aspect of it. You know, I have to be very honest, because as a commercial pilot, although I had my commercial, I was very afraid to fly. I think that's because I'm a woman. And I'm not sure, you know, I'm not gonna speak for every single woman, but I know for me, I was never ever comfortable, you know, flying alone and flying by myself, although I was a commercial pilot. So when I became an instructor, you know, and the first time I took up a student, I remember feeling very protective of my student, you know, because at this point, it's like you're a mother to a child, you know. It's not like, oh, I'm just gonna take someone, you know, another pilot, my instructor, you know, who I can depend on. Now someone is depending on me because I wanted to put, you know, to be able to land the plane safely, right? Because safety obviously is my primary concern. And so having that responsibility really instilled, you know, this passion in me even more, you know. Now I'm able to teach someone, and I'm able to share my passion, and I'm able to learn more through teaching, you know. So I think when I became an instructor, that's when I really gained my confidence, and I could tell you that I'm in charge, and I'm really the PIC, and I can really take the plane down, you know, land the plane safely, you know, and I think that confidence comes with responsibility, with a lot of responsibility, but it also takes a lot of time, at least for me, to build that.